This is the A to Z podcast, episode 22. I'm here with Alexander DePalo and his nifty new background. How we doing, big guy?
Doing well, Z. Doing well. A lot to talk about all over the Islanders, free agency in the NFL, and the Yankees get hard-hitting news for their ace. Let's get going. All right, Z, I'm going to start off with my favorite team, the Islanders. I had buried them. I picked up the shovel myself 2 weeks ago, and then, of course, they go streaking. 6 in a row. Currently, I'm watching them play LA up on the West Coast right now, going for 7 in a row. They are a reborn team, totally different. Every line looks different. They look lethal up and down the lineup. And I, I was the first one to say, and I'll be the first one to admit, I didn't think that firing Lane Lambert would do anything. I thought it was a roster problem. And listen, at the end of the day, it might be still a roster problem. But damn, have I been wrong about Wah and what this roster has shown. They are rejuvenated, new team. They find themselves in a wild card spot right now, and they control their own playoff destiny, which I didn't think was possible a month ago.
Yeah, yeah, they're playing really well. I mean, the first line, and we said it when the first line got hot, that first line, I'd put that first line up with pretty much any team in hockey. To me, outside of that, that's a big gap after that. That's the problem with the Islanders. And I understand we don't have a whole lot of draft picks to begin with to add people, but I would have loved if we did. We're just going to be one of those teams that if we sneak into the playoffs, we're going to be out in 2 rounds at the best case scenario.
Oh man. So were you listen, we said it, I said it to you. I said they don't have assets for trade deadline. They don't have draft picks, they don't have prospects, they really didn't have cap room. The only cap room they had was Scotty Mayfield going to LTIR, and they didn't utilize that. They don't have what other teams can provide. I mean, look at what Carolina did. For crying out loud, look at what Vegas did. I mean, it's downright criminal what Vegas did with regards to utilizing the LTIR, putting guys on LTIR just for trade deadline day. I mean, the FBI needs to investigate what the hell they're doing because it is absolutely wild. And I think when the CBA comes up, that's something they're going to take a good, hard, long look at because it's frustrating. It is beyond frustrating. But the Islanders, I said it, they don't have the assets, they don't have the prospects. I knew they weren't going to do anything. I thought that there was a couple guys they could have added under the cap for a low level. And a guy like Anthony DeClaire, a guy like Barbashev on San Jose, I thought would have been a nice fit. Lou decided to stand pat, and
They could have got
rightfully
Bolivier too. They could have got
who?
Anthony Bolivier. They could have brought him back in.
I mean, they could have, but at the same time, like he was cast away. The only reason why you do that is because you want to call chemistry. You want to call obviously his best friend with regards to Beauvillier. I get that, but the guy has sucked this year. He sucked in Vancouver, and anybody could score on Vancouver. He got traded to Chicago. He wasn't much better. Obviously, Chicago's the worst team in the league. But that guy fell off a cliff, and I love him. Scored some big goals for the Islanders. He fell off a cliff. I think that's something that they're gonna kick the tires on come in the offseason. But I don't like that for a deadline acquisition. I wanted someone to give you speed. A guy like Duclair, a guy like
you would have gave you speed.
He would have, but he would have given you nothing scoring wise. Nothing.
All right. Not necessarily. I mean, obviously, people have specialties, and that's the beautiful thing about hockey is you can get a guy that might be really good on the PK to give other guys a rest or whatnot. I mean, freaking Barzal can't play every minute of every game.
He can't, and I think that has helped out dramatically with regards to this team, in that they balanced the lines, which I thought was the opposite of what was going to happen when they moved Nelson up. It has actually lengthened their lineup tremendously, allowed Wah to actually roll 4 lines like he's never done before. And the reason why they were able to do that is Kyle McLean. This fourth line, he's not a journeyman center, but he's a guy who's been a revelation to this lineup. It's allowed Casey Zizekas to move up to the third line. It's allowed that fourth line to play with a little more speed, a little more oomph in their game. Listen, Matty Martin and Cal Clutterbuck are what they are at this point in their careers. I'm happy that Luden announced any extensions like he did last year at the deadline with guys that are great for chemistry, great locker room guys. But right now, at this point in the Islanders franchise, they need to move on from guys like Cal Clutterbuck. They need to move on from guys like Matt Martin. That just is what it is. Ride them out right now, but you can get younger, low-level, cost-wise players to play that fourth line, and Kyle McLean is showing that, and that's allowed them to really lengthen their lineup much more than I really thought it was, and that's the exciting part to me. But the thing I want to ask you, like I said, I was not poo-pooing, but I was down on the Wah hire. I knew he was a good coach. I knew obviously what he did in juniors. I saw what he did with Colorado, but I was, again, did not think it would help. And so far, it has tremendously helped. And the question that I'm going to ask you is, what sport do you think coaching matters the most, in that the coach can affect the game out of the four major sports? Basketball, baseball, hockey, football. What do you think?
That's an impossible question to answer. I
Can
appreciate.
you rank? Can you rank them for me?
That's a really hard question. It is. I feel like I'm gonna get crap for this from my basketball friends, but I'm gonna put basketball at number 4, and that maybe just because I never played basketball. Maybe I just don't know enough about it. I don't know. I would put baseball or football at number 1.
You put baseball at number 1?
Or football, baseball or football at number 1 between the two of them. I mean, the thing about football is, I would say football is number 1. I would say football is number 1. You're looking at defensive game plans, offensive game plans, studying film. And we see what happens with guys like Belichick and Andy Reid, who seem to be light years ahead of every other coach. Like, I feel like they're able to will their team to victories when, like, the Chiefs this year, I mean, we said it a million times, they were a mediocre team at best, and they won the Super Bowl. A lot has to be said, obviously, for Patrick Mahomes, but I think Andy Reid is as good of a coach as anybody. I think baseball is up there, though. There's a lot of in-game strategy that you have to deal with, and you can have like an Aaron Boone coach that just rides and dies with the analytics, or you can have like an actual in-game manager. I would put that up there, and I would have football, baseball, hockey, basketball. And again, I might just be giving the shaft to basketball because I don't know a whole lot about it, but that would be my ranking system.
I will wholeheartedly disagree. You are giving the shaft to basketball. I think it's because of exactly what you described. I think the obvious answer for the least important is freaking baseball. At one point in the history of baseball, they were player managers because they were that useless.
Because they know what to do. That's why they're the best players and they happen to know the game. It's genius. Get out of here.
No, you're out of your mind, and you're clearly biased because of your coaching in high school right now. And you think whenever these kids win, it's a direct reflection of Z. They only win because of Zanni.
That's 100% true. Ask anybody on the team.
I mean, let's be honest. The manager sets the lineup. The manager puts the starting pitcher out there. Let's just say the starting pitcher gets rocked for 5 runs in the first game. You're screwed. You're absolutely screwed.
I would never let my pitcher get rocked for 5 runs in the first inning. And that's where, again, this is an impossible question because there's so many different coaches and so many different sports. And you can really will a team to win if you're a coach on any sport, if you're making the right moves. I mean, obviously you can make the wrong moves too, but most coaches in that scenario would sit on their hands and watch a pitcher walk 4 guys in an inning and give up 4 hits. And all of a sudden you're down 5-0. I would never be doing that. You're not going to like my pitcher walks like 2 guys. I'm like, all right, next, like I'm done.
He doesn't have it. It's not his day.
He didn't have it, man. Like, are you pulling the plug a little too early? Sure. But I'm not going to be down 5-0 in the first, inning. Basketball, again, man, I'll be the first to tell you, like, you ref basketball, basketball a hell of a lot more than I do. I'm sure there's a lot of game planning that goes into it, drawing up plays and whatnot. But from my like minimal understanding, it's like, well, LeBron's out there, he's got this. Like, just go do your thing.
I think the thing that gets completely underlooked in basketball, and the level that I'm repping basketball, obviously there's not a lot of strategy, and it's intramurals. Let's just call it what it is here. But when you get obviously upper echelon, high school, college, and obviously into the pros, the thing that gets completely overlooked in their defensive scheme is their defense. I said defensive scheme. It is their defensive scheme. Obviously, everybody looks at the offense and they're like, ooh, ah. But when you have a player like a LeBron, or back in the day, a Magic, a Bird, a Jordan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, their game plans weren't the offensive side of the ball. Yes, to a certain degree, but it was to the defensive side of the ball, where the help defense is going to slide, where the pressure is going to be. And Steph Curry has completely changed the game with regards to giving up open layups for open threes. So when you watch the Warriors in their heyday with Steve Kerr and that talent, it was like a well-oiled machine on offense. But when you really watch them on defense, their help defense, their slide defense, it was really, really special to watch. My ranking, it would be baseball really far 4. I actually think it goes football number 1 by a decent amount. Basketball, hockey. So it's football, basketball, hockey, very close, and then a baseball distant 4th for me.
Okay. Yeah, I think that it's a hard thing to argue. I think we're right with football though, being number 1. I
Yes.
think there's a reason you have a billion coaches on the sideline in football. There's a reason you get a week in between games. There's so much strategy and game planning that goes on. There's so much film watching. Whereas baseball, you're on to the next game, the next night. You're trying to figure out what the pitcher likes to throw and stuff of that nature. I do think there's a lot of in-game strategy in baseball.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're really not wrong. I think the proof is in the pudding with regards to football when you have a coach like Andy Reid, and wherever that guy goes, success follows. Let's just call it what it is. And there's other coaches like that as well. I mean, he only won 1 Super Bowl, but the coach down in Dallas, he was pretty good in Green Bay, and he's had success in Dallas. Obviously, he hasn't gone over that hump, but there are good coaches in football and there are bad coaches in football. And there's a reason for that. It's because they know what they're doing. Their schemes are good. They put their players in the best situation to succeed. And that's why coaches, I think, fail in football, is that talent is, yes, there are players that are astronomically better than other players, but there's a lot of grouping of the same talent in the league. You have your elite players, you have your normal average players, which makes up a lot of the league, and then you have your below average players. It's what you can do with those average players and below average players to pull them up. That makes the even playing field on an uneven playing field to make it in your favor. So it's an interesting discussion for sure. But the wild part, I know you're a math guy. I know you like the odds, and Star Wars reference there. Never tell me the odds. 2 weeks ago, the Isles had 6% chance to make the playoffs, and now it's all the way up to 70% chance. Freaking
Yeah,
wild in the matter of almost 10 days.
that's incredible, but that's hockey. Like I feel like that happens all the time where you'll have a team. There's so much parity in the NHL, and it's all about runs. And you can go that 10-day stretch or that 10-game stretch where you rattle off 9 out of 10, and all of a sudden you're right back in the thick of things. And that's essentially what they've done. I mean, they're playing really good hockey and they're clicking at the right time. I'm not trying to be a naysayer and a Debbie Downer here. It's just, what is it going to do? Like, you're sitting here acting like they're going to make the playoffs and we're going to win the cup. We're going to make the playoffs. Who cares? You care about making them. Am I being a jackass here? You care about making the playoffs?
Yes,
We're going to make the playoffs and we're going to lose in the first or second round. And that's going to make you sleep at night?
Nothing makes me sleep at night, but what I'm saying is, if you're asking me, would I rather watch the Islanders in the playoffs or not watch the Islanders in the playoffs? My answer is going to be watch them in the playoffs every time.
Of course, I want to watch the Islanders in the playoffs. I want to watch them win in the playoffs. I want to watch them win a Stanley Cup. But if I had the option where we could not be in the playoffs, have a very high draft pick, trade at the trade deadline, and prepare for next year and actually make a deep run, I'd rather that. I'd rather prepare to be a team to beat. And I understand that might sound crazy, but like we don't have a chance of winning the Stanley Cup. Like there's what are you gonna say? What? There's
No chance? I mean, no
what are you
chance?
putting us at? A 1% chance to win the Stanley Cup?
No,
No, it's
no.
more than that.
If I would have told you during the pandemic and the year after, hey, the Honors are making the playoffs, give me a chance that they would have made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, what would you have put it at?
I mean, the pandemic, I feel like, was anybody's game. You had the freaking Lakers winning the bubble, and they were like the best team in the league. So let's not talk about the pandemic.
Fine.
You want to talk
I'll
about
give you that one. The
the
next
year
year.
after that? Fine. But we were a little like, oh, wow, we did so well last year that, you kind of had a little bit of momentum going into the year. I felt like that team was a good team. I still didn't necessarily think they were like cup favorites by any means, but we had a solid team. We had a good, decent coach. Like
Very good coach. Yeah, Hall of Fame coach, probably.
yeah, that we ran out of town. But what do I know? I guess my point is, I just feel like at the best case scenario, we're gonna be losing in the second round. That's my point. And while that's great to go to, maybe 5 or 6 home games in the playoffs, I'd rather have sold. I'd rather have a better draft pick, and I'd rather have a better team going into next year.
I mean, listen, we're gonna agree to disagree on this one. Just because I understand what you're saying, but it's a loser's mentality to play for next year, and then when next year comes and they get bounced in the first round, you got to be in it to win it.
I know that better than anybody else. Have you ever seen me say, I want to do this, I want to do that? I just want to build the freaking team. We're close. We're really close to like building that team. But you gotta get over the hump. And we're striking out left and right on free agents. We really are. We've been striking out for a very long time now. Basically, most of our lives, we've been striking out in free agency. It's true.
Yep.
So it's like we have to figure out a way to not strike out in free agency. We have to figure out a way to get some draft picks back because Lou went a little crazy there for a period of time where he was just throwing draft pick. He thought he was Oprah for a second. You get a draft pick, and you get a draft pick, and you get a draft pick. It's absurd. So I thought we could have gotten a little return for. We didn't have much. You're 100% right, but I felt like we could have got a little return where we didn't really demolish our team and maybe get a pick back or something like that, and then continue on. It really wouldn't have been anything crazy. By the way, apparently Mayfield's been playing with like a broken foot or something.
Yes, I mean,
it shows.
He's looking like crap. Like thank God he's
shows.
Thank God he's playing with a broken foot, because if the guy was healthy playing the way he was, we'd have some real problems. He apparently broke it in game 1, took a slap shot like 100 miles per hour off the ankle, and has been playing on it. And what a freaking warrior, because it's been nuts. But he has looked slow. And I think because he is favoring this ankle, his decision making is off. I mean, for God's sakes, he single-handedly cost the Stadium Series game. I mean, my poor brother and nephew just leaving the MetLife in tears simply because of Scott Mayfield. That's neither here nor there. But I'm going to enjoy this ride, Z. And
you should enjoy the ride. I know I get it. I get it. People are going to be like, I can't believe what you're saying. I get it.
I can't believe what you're saying, because 3 weeks ago, I want to bring it up on tape. You were like, you just got to get in, man. You got Sorokin. He's the best.
Listen, anything can happen when you get in the playoffs. That's true with any sport. It's especially true with hockey, because especially you get Sorokin, get hot, and they can rattle off some wins. I'm looking at the teams that will also be in the playoffs, and if they're playing the Islanders, they're just a lot better than us. That's the truth of the matter. But depending on the way the bracket falls, maybe you don't ever play those teams. Maybe those teams
get upset in the first round. Yeah,
100%. So I stand corrected. My esteemed colleague knows more than I do when it comes to hockey.
But just a couple more notes, and then we'll get on to the free agency and what happened with the Yankees today. Couple things. I don't know if you saw game over the weekend, the Minnesota Wild and the Nashville Predators. Little known rule in the NHL. I did not know that Minnesota is hurting for points. They're trying to make their playoff push. In overtime, John Hines pulled their goalie, and they ended up scoring and winning the game.
Yeah.
Now,
So
if they would have let up an empty netter, did you know that they would have gotten 0 points for that game?
wow. No, I did not know that.
Yes, that is in the rule book.
Wow.
Bananas, right?
Ballsy call. Did he
Balls of steel. No, I didn't know that.
no,
I
did he
literally,
know that as he pulled the
oh,
goalie?
dude, if he didn't
They,
know
they said to him
that,
after the game, and he was like, "What?"
what exactly? They're
Well,
interviewing. They're like,
and it worked out.
John, can you tell us about your logic? Like, really, really gutsy call there at
You
the
know, I
end, pulling
figured
your
I had one
goalie.
point locked up already, and didn't
I
get
knew
to a
they were
shootout.
I knew they were a good shootout team, but John, if they would have scored the empty net, you get no points, and you just see like white face. He's like, say that again. What now? I mean, crazy. I when they were doing it, I didn't know what was going on, and then everybody was going crazy, saying that it would have been 2-0 for him in that situation. Crazy. Next note I wanted to mention, because I know you're a season ticket holder for the New York Islanders, the Sabres, a team that hasn't made the playoffs in 13 seasons, mind you, are mandating that the Sabres season ticket holders will need to pay a $5,000 reseller license if they plan on selling tickets on the secondary market. Do you believe that?
No, that's insane.
Like, how tone deaf can you be as a franchise, as an organization? You haven't made the playoffs in well over a decade and hurting for sales. This was a team that sold out game after game. It's like what they do up in Buffalo, right? And they are just like, screw you to their season ticket holder, loyal fans, saying they have to pay for this. Like, who's gonna honestly do it? But the fact that you are even putting this out there is just disgraceful for me.
I agree. That's insane.
And then the last thing I wanted to mention, John Tortorella. I think he is phenomenal for the NHL. He is great for the media, great for marketing. Over the weekend, the Flyers, obviously a team that the Isles are chasing right now, gets tossed from the game down in Tampa Bay. Did you see this at all?
Did not.
Gets tossed from the game and refused to leave the bench.
Oh wow. Why did it get tossed?
I mean, listen, it was like 3 what he thought was ticky-tack calls. He was just F-ing match back and forth between him and the ref had enough. It was Wes McCall, who's well known for his antics and his funny calls when he calls penalties. Tosses him, and the camera pans the torts on the bench. F you, I ain't effing leaving, going back and forth like crazy. It was like something at a Wolf of Wall Street. I mean, the internet was loving it. It literally went on for several minutes to the point where I'm like, they're gonna make the Flyers forfeit the game. At the point, it was 4-0. But then I was thinking that he was gonna leave the bench and come back as what's his name from the Mets, the manager.
Oh
Remember when he
yeah,
did that?
Bob Valentine.
Bobby Valentine. I thought for sure he was gonna come back with the glasses and the mustache. But I just wanted to mention those few things because there's just a couple wild things that happen over the weekend in the NHL. But we woke up this morning and just devastating news for the Yankees. I don't want to say, maybe I'm overselling it. Maybe the Yankees are underselling it. But Garrett Cole, the Cy Young award-winning ace pitcher for the Yankees are sending him to get what they're calling as a precautionary MRI because, quote, he's having problems recovering in between starts. I mean, Zanni, who's not, right? But like, what the hell does that mean? Like, it's the spring. He's made one spring start, a couple bullpen sessions, and he's got to get this precautionary MRI. Are you worried? Like, what's your scale right here?
Yeah, of course you're worried. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? The best pitcher in baseball is getting an MRI on his elbow. Of course you're worried. The only like saving grace is it's not
Blake
a
Snell?
shoulder. No, it's yeah. It's not a shoulder injury, right? If it's a shoulder injury as a pitcher, that's when you really need to worry. And I know that's a silly thing because obviously Tommy John is your elbow, but pitchers come back from Tommy John all the time. Like that's not a thing. Pitchers don't really come back from shoulder injuries. Pitchers come back from Tommy John. I'm not saying that this is going to be a Tommy John thing. This might be something very simple. It might just be inflammation that's not going away and he needs to shut it down for a little bit and maybe he'll be out. not ideal no matter what. Like, you don't want your stud guy to be out. You don't want him to be missing any time. But if he's going to miss time, let it be when it's March.
Now,
Right.
but all right, let's go case scenario here. The guy, they shut him down for 3 months. He doesn't come back till July. What's your outlook then?
I mean, bye playoffs, right? Like, what's my outlook? Who's pitching for us, Alex? What are you talking about?
Right.
To
I mean,
begin with, our staff is not anything
good.
to write home about to begin with. Yet we still have Trevor freaking Bauer out there just mowing down competition, and we're just gonna watch him and just be like, "Oh, all good." One of the best pitchers in baseball is out there, just dominating still, but it's all good. We're just gonna ignore that. I mean, I have no faith in this in this Yankee team in terms of like what they're going to do. They're probably going to wind up going and doing exactly what Scott Boras wants them to do, which is he's been praying for an ace to go down. So then somebody can go out there and be like, what did I tell you? 120 million? I'll give you 240, like just come to the team. We need you. I don't know. Rondon, I was really actually pretty excited about the Rondon signing when we signed him last offseason. And that's been a giant mess. I know he's in better shape this year, but you don't know what to expect from him. You really don't. And it's going to be tough without like a true ace. So that would be really, really bad news if that's the news that we get from Cole.
I mean, it's crazy to me because I'm only imagining obviously I hate Scott Boras, but I'm only imagining Scott Boras just opening his phone this morning, just clicking up on his timeline and just smiling ear to ear with this news because it's exactly what he wants for his clients in Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell. And to his credit, Garrett Cole has been crazy, crazy durable throughout his career. He's eclipsed 200 innings 5 times in his 11-year career, and there were conversations between Boras and Cashman and the Yankees for Blake Snell, but the Yankees were only interested in Snell for a longer term deal, and the whole reason for that is what all the GMs want. They want longer term but a lower AAV. But it's more important for the Yankees because they don't want to eclipse that luxury tax threshold of 300 million. Every dollar they go over that threshold, they get taxed at 110%. It's a crazy number. So Cashman, meaning they got to keep that AAV down as long as possible. And obviously, Boras is like, this is my cash cow. I'm going to sign him shorter term so he could just keep getting higher and higher, or not higher and higher, but keep the AAV up for every single deal that he signs. The logic makes sense. But God forbid Cole is out long term. It's going to be a Mexican standoff between Cashman and I'm serious. I'm between Cashman and Boras, and it's going to see who blinks first, right? Like, because doomsday scenario is Cole's out and they don't have an ace pitcher. They are going to get desperate. I don't think Cashman has the appetite for Jordan Montgomery, and quite frankly, I can't imagine Jordan Montgomery coming back to this team after they cast him aside in whatever year it was. So the option comes down to Blake Snell, and is it going to be a bidding war against other teams? I don't know. I haven't read anything about any suitors for Snell. I don't know if it's the Yankees bidding against themselves and working with Boras, but they have zero internal options. I don't know if you know these guys, but I was reading about a guy Lewis Gill, William Warren, Clayton Breyer. I don't know any of these guys. And the trade market is bleak. No one's going to come to the Yankees' help. This guy, if Cole goes down, nobody is coming to their help, and rightfully so.
We can only hope that this is just a minor setback and that the MRI is just to confirm, elbow inflammation, and which is, let's not pretend like it's not common. Like,
right.
Swing in baseball is the most unnatural movement your body could possibly make in any sport. And if anybody tells you differently, they're lying to you. Like, pick up a baseball right now, go outside, heave it as far as you can. And if you're an unathletic person who hasn't thrown in a while, you're going to tear something.
It's going to hurt.
Yeah.
It's
And you're going to hurt for
hurt.
days, upon weeks, like what these pitchers do is very abnormal. So it could be something very minimal where he just needs to rest and get that inflammation down, and utilize Brooke for acupuncture and stuff of that nature.
Happy birthday, Brooke. I meant to mention it in the beginning of the podcast. I hope it was a good one. I hope it was good. But other bad news was Aaron Judge pulled from a spring training game after swinging and wincing in pain, and Boone classified it as, quote, mid-spring beat up. I mean, we are getting just weak as a society. This guy just had 4 months off or whatever it was. He worked for 2 weeks and he's mid-spring beat up. Like, what are we talking about here? I'm thinking about Ted Williams, who had to go fight World War II in the prime of his career up there. And he's like looking at Aaron Judge being like mid-spring beat up. Like, dude, I was taking bullets and I came back and hit 402. Like, come on.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
disgraceful. It's disgraceful.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is. You know what though, and we talk about this all the time. It's a really crazy sport, baseball, because it's the only sport that you're going to play. Like, it's a 162 game regular season. That's not counting playoffs. It's not counting spring training. It's a crazy sport to play 200 freaking games, not to mention practices and hitting in the cage and actually going to the gym and working out. Like, it's too much. It's too much. It really is.
The grind is bananas. I'm not going to deny that.
It's the only sport that I truly feel like you should not be playing every game. Like, if you're a good manager, you should actually be like utilizing off days for your guys, like certain days a week, and just configuring where you're still trying to win games, obviously, but you're configuring a way to give guys off where you can keep them fresh and you can keep them healthy. I don't feel that way in any other sport. Basketball, at the best, you're playing what? At the worst, at the worst, you're playing what? 4 games a week at the worst.
At the worst,
Generally speaking, you're going to play 3 games, 2 to 3 games a week.
Right.
Like, you can't play 2 to 3 games a week. You shouldn't be a professional athlete. It's pretty similar in hockey. I mean, 3 games is pretty solid. Not really getting that 4th game too much, but sometimes it'll happen. And football's once a week, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it is too much. It is. There's no other way to say it. I think it's too much on so many levels. It's too much for I'm now saying, but wear and tear on the body, and it's too much for you're gonna rip me apart for this, but it's too much for the fans.
Oh, I agree.
You do
agree. I'm the biggest fan in the world. It's too much. It's too much, man. The only good thing about them playing so many games is like when you get home or you turn on the TV at like
it's always on.
Never
always on.
It's like your lunch break, you turn on TV and you're like, oh, there's a game right now. Like, that's cool. I can watch this. But it's too much to actually keep up with.
Right.
Oh, did the Yankees win yesterday? I have no idea. I don't know. I couldn't watch. That real life. Like, I can't watch.
But the word
games.
Exactly what you just said. But not even that. Not only is it the game every single day, and I know they've made changes to it, it's the length of every single game. It's not like we're talking an hour and a half thing here. We're talking about something before the changes they made that could go on 3+ hours. So that's what that's the grind. It's obviously the length of the season, the amount of games, but it's the length of the actual game itself as well.
I've been a big proponent on that, the shortening of the game, which again is terrible. And like, I get it from a old school baseball fan and stuff of that nature, but you were losing fans in droves, and you have to attract this sport to new fans and the younger generation that have no attention span whatsoever. So shortening the game and doing the pitch clock and all this stuff, and actually, allowing runners to steal bases again and stuff of that nature, it's all good for the sport to grow. It really is.
And I couldn't agree more with that, because I mean, you have young kids, I have young kids, and it's only going to get worse with the attention span. The Twitter, Instagram. I mean, I can see myself. It's you read something for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and if it doesn't interest you, you're gone, right? You're off it. You swipe it, you're done. And it's hard for a young 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old kid to sit down, watch a baseball game, and not or be entranced or understand what's going on and like what they're watching for more than 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And it makes it hard. And if you don't have those young fans playing the game, watching the game, it's really, 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 really hard to grow the game for sure.
It's impossible. No, that's
Very hard.
it's impossible to grow the game if those guys aren't gonna watch it, play it, and love it. Because at some point in time, our parents that grew up with baseball are gonna pass away, and then we're gonna enter their generation, and the younger generation is gonna move up to our level. You need them to love the sport, pass it on to their children. Otherwise, the sport's gonna be dead before you know it.
I know, and it's happening. I mean, when you watch the TV ratings, attendance wise, it's slowly going down, and it's sad. But I think MLB is finally serious about changing not the essence of the game. And I understand these traditionalists out there that don't want to do anything and um to speed up the game, but they're going to die eventually. And our generation and the generation behind us has to make those changes, because if you don't adapt, they're going to die. No doubt about that.
Yeah, yeah.
But let's move on to the big thing of the day. I know you were locked into it. It was the NFL free agent frenzy. When I sent you the outline, I mean, the writing was on the wall for the Giants with Saquon Barkley. They didn't franchise tag him. They told him they were going to, he was free to talk to other teams. And it happened. He
Yeah.
signs a 3-year deal with, if it wasn't freaking Dallas, it was their second biggest rival in the Eagles. 3-year deal, I think it was 37.75. Listen, I'm reading Twitter, I'm listening to the radio. You have Tiki Barber on the radio saying you're dead to me. Listen, he said it tongue in cheek. And then you have Giant fans who are like, this is no different than what John Tavares did to us. And I'm like, screw you. You have no idea what you're talking about. Saquon Barkley could not have been more loyal to this team. And time in and time out, they screwed him. They gave him the franchise tag. He said he wanted to sign long term. He said he wanted to be here. And they could not get a contract done. I don't know anything about the salary cap in football. But do I think $10 million or a little over $10 million for a top 5 running back in the league for 3 years is too much? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't know why they thought that was too much, but apparently they did. So they let him walk, and they shift their sights to another stud running back in New York. Devin Singletary, come on down. Exactly like you said before we started. The guy couldn't start on the Bills, but here we go, New York Giants. You can start on our lineup. Like what? Like what are we doing? What are we doing? Make it
I
make
don't
sense,
know.
Z. Make
I
it
don't.
make sense.
So I will say this: in the NFL, there's a formula, a very simple formula, and it's to not pay the running back.
Yep.
Okay. Most teams that win championships aren't paying the running back. So I get that. So locking in, I think 38.
Sorry to interrupt you. San Fran would have been the exception this year, obviously.
Yeah, they absolutely would have, but they went all in on their running back because they were completely loaded and filled everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, okay, we can get McCaffrey, the best running back in football, not even giving a first round draft pick, which is still absurd when you think about that. And they were able to do that and go all in because their team was complete. So it was a little different. But I think the Giants' logic was that, like, hey, we can't commit almost 40 million to this guy who at the end of the day, we don't have a quarterback. We really don't have any other skilled position players. They're just not a team that's going to win a championship this year. So I think that they're trying to play long-term strategy where they're going to wind up. I've been reading a lot of articles on them loving Drake May, which you know how I feel about him. I think they'll be very happy if that's the route they go. But Saquon going to the Eagles is a really tough pill to swallow. But I gotta say, today, day one, the Eagles, man, they're looking really good. They're coming out firing on all cylinders right now. That is a sick offense.
Yeah, listen, I thought for some reason a DeAndre Swift lover. I draft him every year in fantasy, and most of the time he has like 1 or 2 weeks that just like tantalizing. You're like, this is the guy. He's amazing out of the backfield. He's amazing when he gets the ball in his hand. Like, give him the ball, and then like offensive coordinators just forget about him for weeks on end that he exists, and it drives me bananas. They're not going to forget about Saquon. They're not going to forget about him.
He's
And
the
and I
guy. And Saquon does everything really, really good. Whereas like Swift, like you said, he can kind of you put the ball in his hand, he might make something happen one game or the next. Saquon will make something happen. That team, that I'm telling you, man, that team is a really tough team to beat. Really tough.
and
They had a really
yeah,
good first day.
it's crazy to me to think about, and I think I saved it, but it's crazy to me that what happened with regards to the running back situation across the NFL today. So the new NFL running back landscape, Saquon Barkley to the Eagles, Josh Jacobs to the Packers, Austin Eckler to the Commanders. Like, I get it, dude. You got to get paid, but why? Why in your right mind would you ever go to that team? Tony Pollard to the Titans. I mean, I don't know who's playing running back right now for the Cowboys. DeAndre Swift to the Bears. Singletary, bam, to the Giants. Gus Edwards to the Chargers, and Antonio Gibson to the Patriots. Just a round robin carousel of running backs around the NFL, and exactly because of what you just described, NFL GMs and owners are realizing it. You can't win when you pay your running back.
Yeah.
2 or 3 year deals, get them on, get them off your payroll. Find the next guy, find the next athlete, and they'll service you exactly right.
Well, it's more than that too, because running backs, they have a very short shelf life in the NFL.
Yes,
So they come out, they come out of college and they got a lot of tread left on that on those legs. And then all of a sudden, 4 years in, they don't have the same speed burst as they once did. And now there's another guy coming out of college and he's running a 4.340. And you're like, holy hell, like we can just utilize this guy for the league minimum as opposed to paying this guy. So it almost makes little sense. Whereas like a lot of other positions, you get to learn it and you get better. Whereas running back's that position that it's like you'd almost rather the more explosive athlete. Like I'm going to give you this ball 20 times a game, 25 times a game. I just need you to be explosive, right? We're going to set the blocks up. You just hit the hole. Obviously, there's a few people that you can say were just monsters in a league for a very long period of time. Adrian Peterson being one of them, but he was just a freak of nature, like an absolute freak of nature.
absolutely. These teams know that they're okay with running these running backs into the ground because they're not here for a long time. They're here for a good time, and they're here for to win in that little window of their running back because um, there are exceptions, but there are few exceptions. Like Derrick Henry right now is that exception. And to me, I mean, maybe it happened, but no one sounds like a cowboy more like Derrick Henry. Like Texas does everything bigger. Derrick Henry is their guy. I think it just makes too much sense personally.
Yeah. Where's Derrick Henry going?
I maybe I missed it. I didn't see it. I didn't see it. Obviously, um, Titans are getting their guy with Pollard, and I just think it makes too much sense for them to go after Henry. But maybe I'm wrong about that.
Yeah.
But the person that you could not have been more right on, where we talked about it last week, was your boy Russ Wilson. I thought he was gonna, fly with the Jets possibly, but he signs a 1 year deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it's a home run for the Steelers personally.
Steelers Nation. Ride. Steelers.
Let's weld.
Let's ride. Steelers Nation. Let's ride.
Um, I love it. I think it's a great. I don't want to say low risk for them, but it makes too much sense with regards to that team. Mike Tomlin. They haven't had a serviceable quarterback now. I feel like since Roethlisberger, obviously, which happens a lot. These teams have these generational quarterbacks. They don't have to think about the position for 15 plus years, and now all of a sudden they do, and they're floundering for several years. But I'm not saying Russ Wilson's gonna.
Floundering though, because Tomlin keeps them a 500 team every year.
Yes, yes,
And it's like you're not going to get that top draft pick, so you're not going to grab one of the top quarterbacks in the draft. Now, you can definitely still get a serviceable quarterback, but I don't know. I feel like there's so many bad scouts where I swear, man, they're like, here are the 5 guys. And then those 5 guys are gone. And then it gets to people later and they're just like, well, all those 5 guys are gone. So whatever, there's nobody else here that's worth a draft pick. But I mean, Brock Purdy would prove you wrong right there. Like they would give anything to have Brock Purdy on their team right now.
oh, for sure,
I'm not saying
for
Brock
sure.
Purdy is the greatest quarterback in the world, but my Lord, he's better than anybody the Steelers have.
Oh, for sure, for sure. But I didn't actually even see what the AAV was for Russ Wilson, but it's a smart move, low risk
They had to,
for the Steelers,
they had to do it. Like Russ is better than anybody that they have,
for
and
sure.
he he can still play. Like he's not the Russell Wilson from 8 years ago. Like we all
He
know that.
But he was brutal 2 years ago. But this last year with Sean Payton, obviously another wildly successful coach. Speaking of coaches, he looked again not like he did 8 years ago when he was winning the Super Bowls, but very serviceable. Could win you the occasional game. Much better for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a good signing. I mean, it made sense. I mean, that's why I said it last week. But getting back to the Eagles, they also signed Bryce Huff today for 3 years, $51 million, which was a shot in the Jets' face for numerous reasons. And I'll get into that now. Last year, the Jets had a pretty high draft pick, and we were stuck on an offensive lineman. And I still to this day think it was the worst trade because we had Rodgers. Rodgers was coming to us. Everybody knew that. The Packers knew it. All we had to do was just hold firm. Just be like, all right, well, this is our offer. And at the 11th hour, we decided to swap draft picks. So we wound up moving from I forget the exact draft pick, but let's say we moved from like number 10 to number 12 or 11 or 13, whatever the heck it was. And so when it got to us, or when it got right before us, the Patriots traded with the Steelers, and then the Steelers drafted the guy we were going to draft. So then the Jets sat there for 10 minutes or however long it is that we're on the clock, not knowing what to do. You can tell it was full panic mode. They were like, oh, I didn't see that one happening. Like, how did you not see that happening? What are you talking about? And that's when they wound up choosing Will McDonald, which now Bryce Huff, homegrown guy, now
Hmm.
signs elsewhere. We know exactly what we're getting from him. He's a stud. Let's call it as it is. He's a stud. We now don't have a receiver that we could have drafted a receiver last year, or we could have drafted an offensive lineman. So this way we draft an off. If we drafted an offensive lineman last year, we can draft a receiver in this draft. And now you have a complement to Garrett Wilson. But instead, we drafted a guy that we already had a guy for. So now we lose Bryce Huff in free agency because we're not going to sign him. Now we're still receiverless. We're still offensive linemanless. And we have to pray that Will McDonald now goes out there and fills the shoes of Bryce Huff. GMing 101, man. Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm just so I'm so flabbergasted with the entire thing. I'm just sitting there and I'm like, oh my God. So Will McDonald better be a freaking beast for the Jets this year. And then, you know, I can say I was wrong, but this is just silly. It's just silly. But the Jets did go out today. They signed guard John Simpson, which is a pretty solid pickup for them. I mean, I'll take any guard at this point. So, but John Simpson's pretty solid. So, and he's only 26 too, so he's still learning. But that's a pretty solid pickup for the Jets.
The T Higgins put out there, or it
And
was
he wants to
reported.
trade. T. Higgins wants
Yes, yes.
absolutely.
I think that's somebody the Jets need to target, right? Like it only
I
makes
agree.
sense.
No, I agree. It does depend on what their draft strategy is going to be, to a certain degree. Um, Obviously, again, we need an offensive line. Obviously, that's what football is. Football is a bunch of offensive linemen. You need that to happen to be successful. There's just so much talent in this draft, receiver wise, and the one tight end and Brock Bowers, that I'm just like salivating over. Like, please be able to figure out offensive line in free agency, and you can just go to town this year and just get somebody that's going to just be a game changer. I would love to get Brock Bowers. I've made that mentioned several times. I mean, the last time we saw Aaron Rodgers have tight end was just delicious. It was a very
Yes,
watch,
yes,
and
yes, yes.
I can picture that happening again. There was another offensive lineman that got signed today. I forget who picked him up. I think the Patriots re-signed him, and that was like one of the biggest offensive linemen out there. And I was kind of hoping he was gonna come over to the Jets, but it would be interesting to see what the Jets do if they're able to sign like a Brock Bowers and then trade for T. Higgins. I mean, you just created two more tremendous playmakers on your team. You take some pressure off Garrett Wilson, and if you can shore up that offensive line in free agency, it would be cool.
I mean, to reiterate what you said, John Simpson played for Baltimore, left guard, started all 19 games last season. That's where he's expected to play in New York. So that is that's a good signing for them for sure. And where they need to fortify their team. It showed time and time again that that's where they were weak. So that's a pretty good signing. But Kirk Cousins, coming off of obviously a
Hang
major
on. Now,
injury.
one more second. I want to stay on running backs. One more second. I apologize.
Yeah, yeah.
Bengals released Joe Mixon as well,
Yes.
which and
Yes.
I love Joe Mixon.
I love him too. And I mean, listen, he obviously has got a bad rap for what happened in college with him.
He's a young
But
guy, and I can't believe the Giants went instead of signing Aaron
yes.
Jones, instead of just signing Joe Mixon, they jumped the gun and brought in Devin Singletary. Like I just can't get over that. I'm sorry, that's absurd.
But dude, that can't be the starter, right?
He's the starter. What do you mean? You don't pay
No,
him the money you paid him to make him the backup?
Well,
What
I
was it,
didn't
the
even
Thunder
see
and
the
Lightning
number.
type thing? What are you talking about?
What was the number? Do you have the number in front of you? I was hoping that this was just like he couldn't play in Buffalo behind Zach Moss. Like, let's call it what it is. You can't go from Saquon. I understand. Oh, we're making the strength of the team, the offensive line. Like, I got news for you. If I have two D linemen running after me, and I'm not trying to put on the same token, like you need somebody back there. And Devin Singletary ain't it. He ain't it.
He signed for 3 years, 19.5 million. I'm sorry, 16.5 million. That could go up to 19.5 million.
Okay, so if you wouldn't sign Saquon for what was it, 12 million?
Joe Mixon is 1 year older than Devin Singletary. Give me Joe Mixon all day, every day over Devin Singletary. I'm sorry.
I mean, yes. Obviously, the answer is obviously yes. That's bad. That's not good. We're day one in this free agency frenzy. I'm holding my breath for something more. I'm holding my breath for a wide receiver that they haven't had in a decade on this team. I need a wide receiver because I don't care if Drake May's back there. I don't care if Joe Montana in a time machine comes back and plays quarterback. There's nobody to catch the ball on this football team. Nobody. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen.
They haven't had a receiver in a long time either.
I just said that.
No, it's crazy.
I mean, come on. Whatever. The other bit of news, big news was Cousins. Yeah, coming off a big injury and signing with Atlanta. Obviously, you knew it. You called it. Atlanta was in desperate need for a quarterback. They got their guy, and everybody can poo-poo Kirk Cousins saying like he doesn't win a big game, and he hasn't. But the guy's a player. I love him personally. I mean, that quarterback special, what was it on Netflix? Did you watch that at all?
No, I didn't.
Guy's made over like $230 million in his career, and he lives in a house like mine. It's like I just remember seeing this. I'm like, this is his house. It looked very modest, very modest. But his number, I think, it was like 180 million or something like that, signing with Atlanta.
He's been the most fortunate quarterback of all time, hitting free agency at the right time twice. Not once, but twice. He's been the most fortunate quarterback I think I've ever seen. With that being said, I am a huge fan of his. I think he's damn good. I think he was on his way to leading the league in pretty much every single category this year until he got hurt, which was unfortunate. I mean, he was really lighting it up. And overnight, you just took the Falcons to be a Super Bowl contender. And I'm not even joking when I say that. Like, people are going to be like, I can't believe you're saying that. But they are stacked offensively, stacked. And they just didn't have a quarterback to distribute the ball to their playmakers. Mm-hmm. And now overnight, you just got that quarterback. And that team offensively is going to be so much fun to watch.
I mean, Kyle Pitts, his value is gone up by a factor of 10 because that guy has crazy talent. And you see it, you saw flashes, exactly what you described, but they just could never get him the ball. And that division sucks. Let's just call it what it is. The NFC South is not good. The Falcons, I think, should be the favorite coming out of there. And it's going to be a big question mark right now for Minnesota. Who's playing quarterback for them? And that's interesting because that's a very, very good team. A lot of changes, in the NFL, but good on Atlanta getting their guy, and they should be coming out of that division, in my opinion.
I wouldn't be shocked. I don't think. I think you just said that the Vikings are a very good team. I don't think that in any way, shape, or form. Um, and I think I wouldn't be shocked if Justin Jefferson wanted out and you saw him kind of hold them hostage a little bit and say, "Hey, trade me." I wouldn't be shocked to see that. I mean, that team is they're sputtering out of control right now. They are.
Why do you say that?
Like who's going to play for them? What are you talking about? Who's starting for them?
I mean, that's the problem. Is the
Yeah, that's
most
a
important.
problem, Alex.
That's a
It's a
huge.
quarterback-driven league.
No,
You know,
the
like
most important
that would be a
position in the game.
problem if they don't have
Yeah,
a guy to start for them. And Justin Jefferson obviously can't do it all by himself. He's only one guy.
it is interesting to me that, again, I don't know what it's a salary cap, and I don't know what the negotiations were, but you just had probably some of the most successful, other than their Super Bowl couple runs there, but the most successful period in Vikings history, predicated on this coach, obviously, and this quarterback, and you kind of just let him walk. Like I just think that's an interesting bit of business. I don't know.
I don't think they let him walk. I mean, I'm sure that they were putting their best foot forward and trying to pay him, but the writing was on the wall. He's going to a better team. He really is. He's going to a better football team with better players around him. I mean,
Mhm.
you got Bijan Robinson in the backfield now, who does everything and is going to be one of the best running backs in the league coming into this year, especially with guys like Drake London, who was underutilized all year.
For sure.
Like you said, Kyle Pitts is going to be a monster. Kyle Pitts is
No,
going to be an absolute monster.
no doubt about that. Absolutely no doubt about that. They're going to be good, and they're not in a good division, so I think, like I said, I think they're the favorites coming out of there for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that completely.
Did you see any other moves by the Jets, or that was their lone move?
That was the only move that I saw the Jets pull today, which again I was fine with. I was happy with. I hope that obviously more things happen for them. I hope that they keep making some solid signings. I don't know how to pronounce the guy's last name, but Mike Onwenu or something like that. Onwenu from the Patriots. He was like the coveted tackle that got
Okay.
the Patriots re-signed. So when we
Okay.
looked out on him, I was like, all right, not too happy, but I'm hoping that we can figure something out. And then we signed, the guard that we signed, and I'm fine with that. But there's definitely some guys out there that haven't signed yet. So hopefully the Jets could pick them up.
Did I miss it? Did the Patriots announce like who the next head coach is? Did I miss this?
Not that I know about.
Wow.
Yep.
That is very interesting as well. Very interesting. But I put it in the show notes for you to get me some trivia. Did you bring any trivia to end the show with?
Oh yeah, totally. Let me just Google something really quick.
All right, I'll give you a question. Pretty hard question in my opinion, but maybe it's something that you've heard before, maybe it's not. But question, who was the first rookie quarterback in the Super Bowl era to throw 3 touchdown passes in a playoff game? Who was the first rookie quarterback in the Super Bowl era to throw 3 touchdown passes in a playoff game? Quick update on the Islander game. 1-0 Kings, unfortunately. 6:36 left in the second.
Oh man. He's a rookie quarterback and he's thrown 3 touchdowns and he's the first guy to do it.
Correct.
Just in the playoffs, not in the Super Bowl, just in the playoffs.
Playoff game. Yes, sir.
This is in our lifetime.
This is in our lifetime.
Okay. Um, Mark Sanchez.
That's not correct. Did he throw 3 touchdown passes in a playoff game?
You probably did. Mark was nasty. Um,
Mark was my hero.
I love that guy.
Oh yeah.
Mark
I
Sanchez.
mean, second best quarterback in Jet history.
Oh, shut up. No, stop it. Stop
I
it.
want, oh, that's gonna be an episode down the line. Jet quarterback ranking history. He's top 5.
I mean, that's not saying much, but he probably is top 5.
Okay.
Chad Penn, whatever. We're not going to go there right now. Let me answer my question.
Okay.
Can you give me like a roundabout year without giving me the year?
Yes, it would be post 2000.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. So they went a lot of Super Bowls without this happening.
Correct. And again, Super Bowl era. So,
Yeah, yeah,
we're talking about 67, 66, something like that forward. But yes, never had a rookie quarterback throw 3 touchdown passes in a season, in a game, for a playoff game.
I'm gonna guess super new. Brock Purdy.
Nope, but good guess. Very good.
All right. Uh Jared Goff.
No, also a good guess.
What about like Stafford? I can't remember when he came onto the scene.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if the
Oh, they
trade.
weren't in the playoffs. Never mind. They didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, they stunk. So
Huh. All right. NFC or AFC?
NFC.
Yeah, that doesn't really help me. Could it be Eli?
Nope. And I don't think they made the playoffs in his rookie year.
I don't know. You would know that better than me.
Yeah. I don't know if this helps, but it was about a team that we talked about a little bit today.
You're right. It doesn't help. Jalen Hurts?
Nope.
Prior to him, Nick Foles.
No.
All right, so it's not the Eagles. I think we can get that. who,
It's
who,
definitely not the.
who else did we talk about? Talk about the Cowboys a little bit. Cowboys. Tony Romo? No, Romo
Nope.
was in like the 90s, I feel like. No? Was he not?
Oh no, Romo was not in the
Why am I
90s.
thinking Romo was like 98? No, I'm lying. Romo is 2001 or 2002, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so it's not Romo. I can't think of anybody else on the Cowboys, which is sad. Like I literally can't think of any quarterback after Tony Romo and the Cowboys, which is terrible. I know it's terrible.
How about their current quarterback?
Dak Prescott, really?
Yes, Dak
Ah,
Prescott.
that's terrible. Ah, wow.
Okay, give me one more. What wide receiver holds the record for the most receptions in a season?
Uh, Isaac Bruce.
Great guess, but no.
Corey
Really?
Holt.
Nope.
Damn it. Uh, wide
I like the,
receiver.
I like these guesses though. I like these guesses. You're there. You're
Really
there.
thought I had that one. Holds the record for most catches in a single season.
Correct.
It's not like Cooper Cup, right?
No. Also post 2000. Not that
Oh,
that helps. I mean, we're talking about 24 years here.
all right. I mean, post 2000. Okay. I'm gonna start rattling, guys. Randy Moss, uh,
Nope.
Marvin Harrison.
Boom.
There we go. Let's go. Let's.
Marvin Harrison, otherworldly levels. Harrison finished the season in 2002 with 143 receptions for 1,722 yards. Just stupid.
That
Just
really.
really stupid.
That's yeah. And we can draft his son.
His son, he's ready.
He's apparently
He is
better than.
ready.
Him.
What'd you say?
Who's apparently better than him.
God. I mean, Hines Ward only had 33 fewer catches that season. Craziness. I'm sorry, 31 fewer catches than him. That's nuts.
Probably the year you traded him in fantasy.
That's right. I was a Hines Ward guy for forever. Like I somehow I would get Hines Ward on my team. Somehow. I
Yep.
loved him. I loved him.
Yes.
All right. We're done. It was a great episode. Plug what you got to plug. What are your social medias? Where can we find you, Z?
I don't even know anymore. I'm all over the place. It's crazy. You can find us at A to Z. No, that's yours. That's your Twitter thing. I'm sorry. On Instagram, it's at _Zanni_show.
Yes.
Where are we at
And
on X?
on X, we are A to Z NY Sports. I had to look at it. I have to look at it every time, but that's neither here nor there. It was a great episode. Next week, we will recap all the free agent frenzy when maybe some of the dust would have settled on the Jets and the Giants. It's going to be a lot of fun.
You just have a stroke? Should I call 911?
Sorry, I don't know what was going on there. I was watching the Honor game. There was a breakaway. I got very distracted. Very distracted.
Shocking.
Enjoy. Thanks, buddy.
Good fight. Good night.